Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating puzzle at the very heart of modern Britain. It's a country where the beliefs of the people are shifting like never before, but the ancient institutions of power, well, they seem stuck in the past.
Okay, let's just jump right in with this pretty startling contrast. On one side, you've got the people. For the first time ever, recent data shows that less than half the population in England and Wales calls themselves Christian. But then, look at the other side. The head of state, the monarch, is required by law to be the head of the Church of England.
So you have this huge gap, right? A society that's becoming way more secular, way more diverse in its beliefs, and a state that is still fundamentally tied to one specific religion. And that disconnect is the central mystery we're going to unpack in this explainer.
Now, what's so wild about this isn't just that things are changing, it's the speed of the change. I mean, look at that chart. This isn't some slow, gradual drift. We're talking about a massive shift in just a single generation. The number of people saying they have no religion is just skyrocketing.
So that brings us to the big question. If fewer and fewer people actually follow the faith, how on earth does the Church of England still have so much power? Well, the answer isn't just about belief. It's about institutional strength built on three really solid pillars: a guaranteed voice in Parliament, a mind-boggling amount of wealth, and a deep, deep foothold in the nation's schools.
So let's start with that first pillar. It's power in Parliament. We're going right to the heart of British government, where religion isn't just an influence on the outside looking in. No, it's literally part of the system.
And here's the key thing you have to get. The Church of England isn't just another church. It's what's called an established church. That means it's legally woven into the fabric of the state. The king or queen's coronation is a religious service. Senior church leaders are appointed with state approval. It's this total fusion of church and state that you just don't see in other major Western countries.
And this is where you really see that power in action. There are 26 bishops from the Church of England who get automatic, unelected seats in Parliament. They're called the Lords Spiritual. They get to debate and vote on every law that affects every single person in the country, no matter what they believe. Think about that for a second. A system of religious representation where no one ever votes for them.
And as you can imagine, this is where critics jump in. They raise a pretty fundamental question about fairness. In a modern multi-faith country, should one single religion get a special privileged voice in making the laws for everyone, especially when no other faith and no one representing the non-religious gets anything like it?
Okay, on to the second pillar of the church's power, and this one is huge. It's incredible and often totally hidden economic muscle. This money gives it a kind of influence and staying power that's honestly hard to wrap your head around.
Just look at that number. Over £10 billion. And that's just its main investment fund. This massive pile of cash is the financial bedrock that supports everything the church does. It means it can fund its projects, maintain its buildings, and keep its influence going, even as the number of people in the pews goes down. It's basically insulated from public opinion.
So you gotta ask, where did all this cash come from? Well, this isn't new money. To understand it, you have to look back through centuries of history to a time when the church was at the center of everything, especially land ownership.
And that's because we're not just talking about stocks and bonds here. We are talking about physical ownership of the country itself. The Church of England is one of the biggest landowners in the UK. It owns farmland, forests, historic properties, even the rights to the minerals under the ground. It's an empire of property that reinforces its status and, frankly, raises some tough questions about whether any religious body should hold that much wealth today.
And that brings us to pillar number 3. This is where all that abstract power, the politics, the money, comes right down to the local level. This is where the church's influence directly touches the lives of thousands of families just trying to get their kids a good education.
So here's the deal. The Church of England runs a huge number of the country's schools, and crucially, these schools are funded by the public, by taxpayers, just like any other state school. But they get to operate by a different set of rules, and that's especially true when it comes to who gets in.
This creates what a lot of people call a paradox. You have parents who might not be religious at all, who find out the best school in their area is a Church of England school. And because that school can give priority to families who go to church, suddenly these parents feel like they have to start showing up on Sundays just to get their child a spot in a publicly funded school.
And you can bet this has kicked off a major debate. Critics say the whole system is just not fair. They argue it puts families from other faiths or with no faith at a serious disadvantage. And it basically uses taxpayer money to keep one religion in a position of privilege within the state education system.
So, where does all this leave Britain? You've got this incredible tension, declining religious belief on one side and deeply entrenched institutional power on the other. It really feels like the country is at a crossroads, having to choose between its history and its modern reality.
The whole debate really boils down to two completely different visions for the country. On one side, you have people who say it's time to separate church and state, what they call disestablishment. They say it's the only way to be a truly fair, democratic, and modern nation. But on the other side, you have defenders of tradition who argue the church is part of the national identity, a source of stability that holds the country together.
So, what happens next? Well, experts pretty much see three ways this could go. Britain could sort of downgrade the church's role to be purely symbolic, keep the ceremonies but take away the real power. It could go for a full clean break, a total separation of church and state. Or a third, maybe more complicated option would be to try and include other faiths in the system. And any one of those paths would totally change what the country looks like. And in the end, that's the ultimate question here. It's a fundamental conflict between history and the present, between the powerful pull of tradition and the reality of a changing people. And the answer Britain comes up with will define what it even means to be British for the rest of the 21st century.